3 months ago, Daniel was sitting at his desk at 2 in the morning, eyes burning, staring at 6 different charts across 3 monitors, and he didn't know why he was still awake. He'd been hunting setups for 11 hours straight, scanning, searching, scrolling through time frames like a man possessed. Euro USD, nothing. GBP JPY, maybe. AUD NZD, close. Gold, not quite. Back to Euro, still nothing. He was searching for trades on high alert like a hunter. His checklist sat next to him. 23 criteria. He'd built the perfect system, backtested it, optimized it, and now he was executing it exactly as designed, hunting for trades that matched his rules. The problem was he hadn't found one in 4 days. Not one that matched perfectly. But he'd taken 7 trades anyway, 7 almost setups. 7 trades that were close enough, and all 7 had stopped out. To him, these almost setups were part of his system, but they actually didn't match his criteria. He was down $1,800 in 4 days. His eyes felt like sandpaper. And somewhere deep in his exhausted brain, a question started forming that he didn't want to ask. What if I'm doing this completely backwards? Daniel had been trading for 14 months. The first 6 months were the usual nightmare. No plan, no rules, just hope and chaos. He blew his first account in 8 weeks, started over. Blew that one in 6. The third time, he decided to do it right. He spent 3 months building a strategy. He tested it on 2 years of historical data. Win rate, 62%. Average risk reward, 1.8 to 1. The math worked, the system worked. On paper, he should have been printing money. But live trading was different. The setups that appeared so clearly in backtesting somehow never appeared in real time. Or they appeared, but not quite right. RSI at 32 instead of 30. Moving average touched but not crossed. Volume strong but not confirming. Every single day he'd see 5 or 6 setups that were 90% there. And every single day he'd talk himself into taking them because 90% felt close enough, and he'd been staring at charts for 8 hours and he needed something to show for it. Sitting without taking action was driving him crazy. So taking setups that seemed close enough made sense to him. He felt like he was doing something, so he'd enter. And the trade would move against him immediately, not because the market was against him, but because 90% isn't a setup. It's hope dressed up as analysis. By month 14, Daniel was barely breaking even. Technically, he was down 3% for the year after commissions, but he told himself that was basically break even. He was working 70 hours a week at trading. He'd wake up at 6 a.m. for London Open. He'd trade New York session. He'd stay up for Asia if something looked interesting. His girlfriend had stopped asking about his day because the answer was always the same. I'm working on it. His friends had stopped inviting him out because he always said, no, I've got charts to watch. And despite all of that effort, all of those hours, all of that sacrifice, he was going nowhere. He wasn't getting better. He was getting more exhausted. He was mentally depleted. His hair was falling out. His stress levels were catastrophic. He wasn't even aware that he was struggling to think rationally. To him, this was normal. He was working hard to succeed. He felt close. But actually, he was trying the impossible. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. Daniel had been watching Euro USD for 3 hours. He'd identified a potential long setup. Price was approaching a key support level. RSI was trending toward oversold. Structure looked clean. He had his entry planned at 1.0850. Stop at 1.0820. Target at 1.0920. Risk reward 2.3 to 1. Everything looked good. He was ready. Price dropped to 1.0865. Close. He waited. 1.0860. Closer. He was watching every tick. His hand hovered over the mouse. 1.0855. Almost there. And then it bounced. Price reversed at 1.0855 and started climbing. It never touched his entry. He'd missed it by 5 pips, and he lost his mind. He was incredibly frustrated by this situation. How could this happen, he thought. Not outwardly. He didn't throw anything. He didn't yell. But something inside him snapped. He'd waited 3 hours for that trade. 3 hours of perfect patience. And he'd missed it because he was waiting for perfection. So he did what desperate traders do. He chased it. Price was at 1.0870 now and still climbing. He entered. He told himself it was fine. The setup was still valid. Just a slightly worse entry. His stop was still at 1.0820. Target still at 1.0920. The risk-reward was worse now, 1.6 to 1 instead of 2.3, but it was still positive. It was still a trade. Price climbed to 1.0885. He was up 15 pips. See? It was fine. Then it stalled, pulled back. 1.0875, 1.0860, 1.0840. His stop was at 1.0820. Price was heading straight for it. And he moved it. He moved it to 1.0800 because he couldn't let this trade stop out after waiting 3 hours for it. Price kept falling. 1.0825, 1.0805. It hit his new stop. He was out. Down 50 pips. $90 gone. But worse than the money was the realization that crashed over him like cold water. He'd just done everything wrong. He'd chased. He'd moved his stop. He'd let emotion override his system. And he'd done it all because he was hunting. Because he'd been searching so hard for that trade that when it didn't appear exactly where he wanted it, he couldn't let it go. Again, he'd taken a trade that didn't match his system. It was a trade that almost matched his system, but almost. Daniel closed his laptop. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. He walked away from his desk for the first time in 6 hours. He went outside. He sat on his apartment steps. And he asked himself the question he'd been avoiding for months. What if the problem isn't that I can't find setups? What if the problem is that I'm looking for them? He sat there for 20 minutes. He didn't have an answer, but the question wouldn't leave him alone. That night, he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about something he'd read months ago, back when he was first learning. Some trader in an interview had said, "The best trades feel like accidents. You're not looking for them. They just appear. And you take them because they're obvious. You take them because everything you need to take them is there and you can't deny it. These are trades that make you feel like if I don't take this one, what am I going to take?" Daniel had dismissed it at the time. It sounded like mystical nonsense. Trading wasn't about waiting for accidents. It was about having a system and executing it. But now, sitting in bed at 3 a.m., that quote felt different, because Daniel had a system, and he was executing it. And it wasn't working. Not because the system was broken, but because he was trying too hard. By trying too hard, being constantly on alert, constantly chasing trades, he'd made his system unworkable because he actually couldn't execute his system properly because of all this. The next morning, Daniel did something he hadn't done in 14 months. He didn't open his charts at 6 a.m. He slept until 8. He made breakfast. He read for an hour. At 10 a.m., he opened his laptop. He looked at his 6-chart layout: Euro USD, GBP JPY, AUD NZD, Gold, USD CAD, NZD USD. He stared at them for 5 minutes. Nothing jumped out. Nothing screamed at him. So he closed the laptop, and he went to the gym. This felt insane. He was a trader. Traders watch charts. But he went anyway. He worked out for an hour. He came home. He opened the laptop again at noon. He looked at the charts. Euro USD had moved. There was a setup forming. Not perfect. 90% there. His old self would have taken it. His new self, the one born yesterday on the apartment steps, closed the laptop. If it's not obvious, it's not a trade. He didn't have to take it. This time he chose not to take an almost appearing trade to feel like he was doing something. Something was changing. This went on for 3 days. Daniel would check charts twice a day, morning and afternoon, 15 minutes each time. If nothing was obvious, he'd close the laptop and do something else. Read. Walk. Work on a side project he'd been ignoring for months, anything except hunt. His mind was starting to clear. Stress levels were returning to normal. He was thinking, more rationally now. The mental burden of constantly watching charts had lifted. On day 4, he opened his charts at 9 a.m., and EUR USD was sitting exactly on his level. Not 5 pips away, not almost there. Exactly there. RSI at 28, moving average crossed, volume confirmed. Every single criterion met. The trade wasn't 90% there. It was sitting there like a gift. Daniel entered. He set his stop. He set his target. And he closed the laptop. He didn't watch it. 6 hours later, he checked. Target hit. Plus $130. The trade had appeared. He hadn't found it. The trade found him. He just evaluated it. And this time, he didn't have that feeling of, I have to take this. Everything was just so obvious that he had to take it. If he didn't take this trade, What would he take? It was that kind of trade. Over the next 2 weeks, Daniel took 4 trades. 4. In 2 weeks, he used to take 20, but these 4 trades were different. They weren't hunted. They weren't chased. They weren't 90% setups that he talked himself into. They appeared when he checked his charts, fully formed, obvious, undeniable. These were trades that came right to his doorstep, not like the ones he used to find by forcing. 3 of the 4 hit target. The 4th stopped out cleanly with no drama, no move stops, no emotional chaos. He made $340 in 2 weeks with 4 trades. In his old system, working 70 hours a week taking 20 trades, he'd made nothing. Now, checking charts twice a day for 15 minutes, working maybe 3 hours total across 2 weeks, he was profitable. The shift wasn't in his strategy. The strategy was the same. The shift was in his energy. He'd stopped hunting and started receiving. He'd changed his approach. Things were working in his favor now. He wasn't constantly on alert and in hunting mode. He could think more calmly and rationally. He felt better mentally. Stress levels had returned to normal. Despite working less, he was convincing himself that this was actually more productive. He was completely changing his operation, and he himself was changing. He had to do this because he'd realized he couldn't get anywhere acting the way he used to. He couldn't resist change. But Daniel didn't understand why it was working. Not yet. He just knew something had changed. The breakthrough came 3 weeks later. He was talking to another trader online, someone who'd been consistently profitable for 5 years. Daniel asked him, "How many hours a day do you spend looking at charts?" The guy said, "Maybe 30 minutes. Total." Daniel thought he was lying. Nobody makes money in 30 minutes a day. So he pushed. "What do you mean, 30 minutes?" The trader explained. "I check my charts twice a day. I look at my watch list. If there's a setup, I take it. If not, I close the platform. I'm not looking for trades. I'm checking if any appeared." Daniel understood what he'd been doing right. There's a difference. And that sentence rewired Daniel's brain. I'm not looking for trades. I'm checking if any appeared. There's a difference. Daniel had been looking, hunting, searching, analyzing, trying to force the market to give him setups. And actually, this was the very thing that made everything harder. The market doesn't respond to force. It responds to readiness. When you're hunting, you're desperate. You need to find something. You're desperately begging the markets for money. You want to press the button to fulfill your habits. One more dopamine hit, and that need makes you see setups that aren't there. You think you're trading your strategy. You convince yourself that 90% is good enough because you've been looking for 3 hours and you need something to show for it. But when you're just checking, you're not desperate. You're not emotionally attached to finding anything. You open the charts. Either it's there or it's not. Either there's a trade and you take it, or there isn't and you close. No drama, no negotiation, no talking yourself into marginal trades. You become a receiver, not a hunter. And the best trades only appear to receivers. They're not needy. They don't feel the need to force a trade. They know how to stay neutral. They wait until a trade actually worth taking appears. Daniel tested this for a month. Twice a day, 15 minutes each time, he'd check his 6 pairs. Some days, nothing. He'd close the laptop. Some days, 1 setup. He'd take it. Rare days, 2 setups. He'd take both. At the end of the month, he'd taken 11 trades. 11 trades in 30 days. His old self would have taken 60. Of those 11, 9 hit target. 2 stopped out. His account was up 9%. 9% in 1 month with 11 trades and 7 hours of total work. It wasn't the strategy that changed. It was the posture. He'd stopped chasing and started receiving. And the moment he stopped chasing, the trades started appearing. He wasn't forcing and things were working out on their own. He was calmer now and more profitable. Actually, this seemed absurd to him. How can I be calmer and profitable? Shouldn't I feel like I'm constantly working, constantly on alert, he wondered. But he'd understood that wasn't the case. He was changing. Here's what Daniel learned that most traders never figure out. The market doesn't hide setups from you. You hide them from yourself by looking too hard. When you're hunting, you're in a state of lack. You need something. You're scanning desperately. And that desperation creates blind spots. It forces you to make mistakes. You miss the perfect setup that appears at 10 a.m. because you're too busy analyzing the 90% setup from 9:45. You talk yourself into bad trades because you've invested 3 hours of attention and you need a return on that time. But when you stop hunting and start checking, everything clarifies. You're not emotionally invested in finding something. You're just looking. And when you're just looking without need, you see clearly. The perfect setups become obvious. They don't hide. They sit there waiting. And you take them because they're undeniable. This approach completely changes your entire trading career. So be careful not to act needy, because if you become needy for the markets to give you trading opportunities, you'll almost certainly make mistakes. You are complete and whole. You don't need a trading opportunity to feel like you're spending time meaningfully. If opportunity comes to your doorstep, you evaluate it. It's that simple. Let opportunity be needy for you, not you for it. Daniel also realized something else. The trades that found him felt different. When he used to hunt for setups, taking the trade felt like a victory. I finally found one. There was relief. There was excitement. There was this sense of, I worked hard for this. It better pay off. And all of that emotion contaminated the trade. He'd watch it too closely. He'd stress over every tick. He'd exit too early or hold too long because he was attached to the outcome. But the trades that found him felt boring. There was no hunt, no victory, no adrenaline, no relief. The setup was just there. He took it the same way you'd pick up a $20 bill on the sidewalk. No drama, no emotion, just, oh, there it is. Take it. Done. And those boring trades were the profitable ones. Because boring meant certain. Boring meant obvious. Boring meant he wasn't forcing anything. Being boring showed he'd adopted the right approach, and his perspective on this work was changing day by day. 6 months after that Tuesday breakdown, Daniel's trading looked completely different. He'd check charts twice a day, sometimes only once. Some days, he wouldn't check at all. He took between 8 and 15 trades per month. His win rate was 71%. His average risk-reward was 2.1 to 1. He was up 34% on the year. But more than the money, his life looked different. He wasn't stressed like before. He felt good mentally. He had time. He saw his friends. His relationship recovered. He could sleep comfortably. He worked on other projects. He wasn't chained to his desk. And the irony wasn't lost on him. When he was working 70 hours a week hunting for trades, he made nothing and felt miserable. Now, working maybe 10 hours a month just checking if trades appeared, he was profitable and free. The market had been trying to give him setups the whole time. He just used to have a mind too busy to notice them. Now, everything was different. Here's what you need to understand. Every moment you spend hunting for a setup is a moment you're not ready to receive one. Hunting creates need. Need creates desperation. Desperation creates bad decisions. You see setups that aren't there. You take trades that are almost right. You convince yourself that close enough is good enough, and the market punishes you for it. But when you stop hunting and start checking, your energy shifts. You're not desperate. You're not needy. You're just present. And presence is what allows you to see clearly. The best trades don't reward the hardest workers. They reward the calmest observers, the ones who check without attachment, the ones who can look at 6 charts and say, nothing today, and walk away. Because they know the trade isn't hiding. It's just not there yet. And when it is there, it'll be obvious. That's when it's time to take action. But until that time comes, they don't force anything, and they don't feel uncomfortable about it. They continue with their lives. So here's what Daniel would tell you if you asked him what changed. Stop hunting. Start checking. Open your charts twice a day, not all day. Look at your setups. If it's obvious, take it. If it's not, close the platform. Don't analyze. Don't search. Don't try to force the market to give you something. Just check. The trade will either be there or it won't. And if you can get comfortable with it not being there most of the times when it is there will make you more money than 100 hunted trades ever could. The best trades find you, but only if you stop looking for them. Only if you become the kind of trader who checks instead of hunts, who receives instead of chases, who trusts that the setup will appear when it's ready, not when you need it to. Daniel spent 14 months hunting and got nowhere. He spent 6 months receiving and everything changed. Not because the market changed, but because he finally stopped standing in his own way. The trades were always there. He just had to stop looking for them to see them. He stopped looking and the trades appeared. And then everything changed.